The ceiling fans? They're very attractive.
Information's out there. All you have to do is let it in.
The Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
Clickety-click.
Crank up the music. Keep an eye on the back.
This presentation is provided to you to amuse or entertain and not to conform or inform. The content on this channel should not be used to replace professional, financial, medical, or legal advice. All footage taken and used from public sources falls under the fair use of the Digital Millennial Copyright Act of 1998. Therefore, no breach of privacy or copyright has been committed. This show is substantially sourced, not affiliated with any community, club, fraternity, or gang. Your cat may vary. I say, moo.
Houston, we have a problem. This is Houston. What? Never mind. No, this is Houston. What's the problem? Nothing. This is Houston. Please tell us the problem. You know what the problem is.
flight tracking continues.
Wow. Wow. Hey, everybody. Whoop, whoop. It's Friday. Well, for me, Friday afternoon. We made it to another Friday. You're on the right side of the grass. So congratulate yourselves. And turn my camera on. Let's see. This button.
Clickety click.
There it is. Hey, everybody. Good to be seen by you all. We're running a little early tonight. I have a function that I'm going to, and with some people, it'll be a fun little gathering. And so I thought we could squeeze in a couple hours now, and then at 6, a show I did with JT and his channel will be premiering. And so if you have nowhere else to go, you can continue on there, and then just get to talking to him. Suddenly he appears. There he is. Hey, JT, good to talk to you again.
Hey, how you guys doing?
And so I have a standing order with JT if he ever has time, and he said he could make this one because it was early enough. So here we are. Oh, so here we are. I gotta play one of these. It's let's go with the new one.
And so here we are.
So
Nice.
Yeah, thanks. So if for people that aren't familiar, I don't know how you're not at this point. I've talked about this gentleman with him many times now. He has a channel, obviously, called JT Follows JC. I put it in the chat, and go over there and check him out. And if you like what you see, which I usually do, hit the like, share, subscribe, all those things.
What is it? What do you mean usually?
Well, I can't rubber stamp everything. I've watched everything you've done.
Yeah, okay. That's okay. That's fair.
Yeah,
That's very true.
So yes, but here I'll even do it here. I'll show. Let's see, where is it? Clickety click. This one. I think you're over here. So there you go. That's what it looks like. And you can see I haven't watched all of them, but there's a lot of red. So I can I go where I can, And then I have to mention this in case I forget that my wife has a soap store. And if you're interested in some of the best soap you'll ever have, you can order there. Link is in the description. So all handmade soaps. And I got that out of the way, she says. Exactly. Well, I don't want to forget. I've done that before. So, okay. Got that out of the way. All right. So, I was trying to think of what to talk about tonight. And I started looking into my wife and I were discussing things about breakfast because I actually goes all the way back talking discussion with my mother. So we'll go into food and things like that about breakfast. And then we have just like the regular stuff to go through. And I figure I'll start flying through it because I do have to get out of here pretty close to 6. So we'll play around as long as we can. And let's see. Let me click over here. And the room's filling up because we're 2 hours early, but they'll figure it out and they can watch the replay, and then they can also watch the premiere. Let's see. Oh, I know. I'll start with this. Here, wait, I gotta stop here. Because in my discussions and meeting JT, one of the first things that he and I were I was kind of introducing to him as pandas. And how they're sus.
We got some new panda news.
Well, actually, not really. Look, I'll play your clip because I love this. I think pandas are sus.
Is my parents' dog moonlighting as a panda?
Which it probably is now. We found out they've admitted again that they're painting chows. But if that wasn't enough weirdness going on in the world, let's see. I'll go back to it. I think it's this one. This is news to me. There's panda dolphins. Have you heard of these?
No.
They call them panda dolphins. And here they come.
What?
Now, I do know that the military has admitted to having drone fish still to this day. So I don't know. Panda dolphins, everyone. If you never heard of panda dolphins until the year 2024 on your list, here it is.
I guess if you can paint a dog black and white, why not
a fish?
Yeah, a fish.
or a mammal, whatever these things are. So there you go, panda dolphins. I'm really happy that you're on screen. That I was going to show that, and now you got to see it live. It's fantastic.
Just when you think you've seen it all.
Right? And I don't get a lot of heat when I talk about pandas and how fake they look, but I get a lot of heat when I talk about the pigeons. So we won't cover that tonight. And and this guy, hats off to this guy. He built a bear.
Convinced this 150.
And so he proves that it would sustain a bear attack by having people hit him. And then shoot at him.
Oh, man.
This guy's got some conviction to his suit, and he drops a log on him right out of was that Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly. They should have two come together, though. You know, like you hit him right in the head.
So there's that one. And then what else did he do? He hit himself in the
Oh,
truck.
man.
This guy, he's serious.
That can't be real.
And I don't actually know if he ever fights the bear or not. He just does all that.
I was just thinking, like, but why not? I mean, all the other stuff's pretty impressive, but if it's a bear-proof suit, why not just have a bear?
That's what I thought. And this whole video, at least the 45 seconds of this video, there's no bear in sight. So,
yeah, they could have had a dog that was painted like a panda attack him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is from Canada Day. I just love this part when he just gets smashed with the log.
I think that's pretty bad, but the truck was
the truck is pretty brutal.
It looked like it was going pretty fast.
Yeah, he gets them both ways. He gets them front ways and back ways here.
It's it's kind of like like maybe the truck impact wouldn't hurt you too bad, but like you getting ragdolled like that could
face planted and the whole bit. But anyway.
You might need to see a chiropractor after that.
Exactly. Yes. But hey, most likely it'll save you from a bear attack, but he never proved that. So I thought that was interesting. So, okay. So that's the bears. And then this is just for fun. I don't know if you've seen these, JT. There's a guy you can send your photos that you want altered, but he never does it the right way. Like this gal wanted her shirt ironed out and he gave her that. And where's the other ones? There was a bunch here. Oh, here. See, like, can you get rid of the big screen TV? And so he does this.
That's good.
Right? And can you remove the giant metal spike or whatever, long metal thing, which obviously she meant this.
Mm-hmm.
Check that out. So I don't know. I thought this is kind of fun if you ever get a chance on the internet where you like just need a few moments to just detox. This gal thought her hand looked funny. Could you fix it? So you put a turkey on it. And and this guy said he wants to be transformed into what girls like, so he gave him a pot belly. So
Oh yeah, he's pushing the stroller.
Yeah, right. He's pushing a stroller exactly as a dad. So, all right, you want a couple more here? This one said, "My husband, could you make his head look more normal sized because he looks small back here?" So he just enlarged all theirs.
Yeah. Cool. Why didn't he make all their heads little?
Well, I think that's what they wanted, or they wanted his head big. Oh, you know what? That would be funny if they all went little. That
would have been funny. I think he messed that up. I think that would have been funnier if they all had really little heads.
You're right. He messed that one up, didn't he? We'll have to write him a flaming email on that. Okay. What is his? Oh, he put a horse there so her hand didn't look so weird. That was pretty good. These gals ended up playing pool. What's this one? This one I like. He said he looked old in the photo. Could you fix it? So he looked young.
Yeah, I like it.
It's all perspective. That's all it is.
You
want any more? Okay, a few more. There's a couple more here. This one, I don't know. She puts her in the water. Could you remove the pipe from my wedding photo? So he brought a plumber in. And I don't know. I think that's it. Okay. That's enough silliness there. But I don't know. I thought that was pretty good. See, I always have to have things ready in case there's no.
You have a lot of tabs open.
I do, but some of them will go really fast over here. I do have a lot, but these are the things that are happening. These invisibility shields are getting more and more spectacular. Harry Potterish, basically, where we're at.
That
And
makes
then-
me think of those was it those things that they've been finding in the desert, like whatever those just opaque looking,
Yeah.
not obelisk, I'm talking about? Like they keep on finding these kind of like
They
these,
found the monoliths. I know that. But
yeah,
they're
monoliths,
finding-
yeah, whatever. There's just like that's similar, but those ones are like silver, like metallic looking, I guess.
Right.
Shield that
And then there's this where they're getting way better with their 3D hologram boxes. So that's pretty good. And then now this was interesting. They're saying this is something new that they can these tires go sideways. But I played videos from like the 50s that they had these in cars and people didn't like them. They got rid of them. But
I mean, it's kind of like, okay, so this would work well parallel parking, I guess.
Yeah, that's what
I mean,
it
so
is.
like, yeah, so would
Tight
you really want,
spaces.
it seems like you could have a lot more issues with the car.
Oh, 100%, right?
having it do that.
100%, yeah. And so what was this one? And then the transparent screens are getting more like we see in the movies. And what was the other one? The technology of the mobile phone, knowing where your face is, following you around the room, is getting even more. So a lot of these things, and this one.
So this is Sky Ted.
This is where people want to have a phone call in public, but make it private. So you put on this monster's mask, you look like an idiot, and then you can make your phone call. I mean, come on, look at this. So
I would rather. What about like a feed bag though? Like, can they just go like if you want to eat something and you don't want everyone to be staring at you, so you can just put some food in there, some oats.
That was the thing during the that nonsense that we went on for several years. The one time you could take them off publicly was when you're eating, but
only between bites though.
Right.
Like when during bites you could pull it down and then you chew with it,
At the height of the nonsense, my wife and I went somewhere and we saw a guy come out of he worked at a restaurant and he came out wearing one and then he pulled it down and he took a drag of his cigarette and then he blew it out and then he put it back up and he kept doing that. Like
just poked a hole in there.
Yeah, right. But I think that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. But
well, do you remember there was that one college football game? Do you remember there was like the band had like
yes,
they had the wind section and they had holes cut into their masks.
Yeah, I have geez, I wonder if I still have it as a background.
I mean, I don't want to say that was the height of the absurdity because there probably was something dumber than that, but
yeah, right.
That was about the dumbest thing I could possibly think of. Like,
yeah. I had, and then they had some where they were like encased in plastic, but yeah, and they it's nuts. It was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I do like the one guy when they had the plexiglass at the register, and he's like, and he keeps on trying to hand him the money through the plexiglass, and then he's like, he walks around. So why do we have that here?
Yeah. And what's interesting is when you look at it now in hindsight, of course, all of us, we were getting censored and we still are. I can't talk too much about it, but we were getting censored saying this doesn't make any sense. And now they came out and said, okay, this didn't work, and this didn't work. And we go out to the same people that we were saying, hey, none of this made sense. And instead of them saying, oh, I see what you were saying back then, they go, well, they had to try things and experiment to save lives. Because think of all the more people would have been lost if they hadn't have done it. I mean, you can't argue with it. You can't win.
People do a great job of I mean, obviously cognitive dissonance is real. Like in order to not change their worldview at all, it's amazing what they can do and the arguments they make now. Because yeah, like that's the thing, that conspiracy theorists have been right about a lot of things, and like people don't admit that, I mean, a lot of these things were not even conspiracies. They were just common sense.
Right.
And it's like, do you remember yesterday when we knew this didn't work and now we're acting like it does? Like, why am I just heard them just say this just the other day, and now they're saying something opposite, and they're not acknowledging that. So, yeah, it's just, that was kind of like, I'm telling you, like, I believe that God uses all things together for good. And I remember, like, during that time, I was just like, well, I mean, if there was ever any doubt, they're lying to us. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
those
all that doubt's been removed. And like I said, at that point, I was just like, I'm not even going to watch the news anymore. I can't.
And it did help some people wake up to that lie, so that, he uses everything for his good. And so, as crazy as those times were, it did help people wake up to it. A few, I mean, there's still very few of us, but we're growing. We're growing in numbers.
We're getting louder anyways.
Right? Because if we are in the end times, besides, Satan having his way, the church, which is anybody basically that talks and believes in Jesus, that's growing too. And we're here to be witnesses, and also to put our candle in the window and shine, let everyone see what's going on.
Yeah. Do you go to a physical brick and mortar place to gather on Sundays, or do you?
We just started recently this year. We found they're Baptist, but we found a church that we like. I obviously don't talk to them about any of the things I do here, because they're, I'm sure, like the rest of church doctrine, are believing that revelation is coming, whereas you and I, one of the reasons we met was we both feel we're on the other side of that, in the back 40 or whatever, and we're in the little season or short season, whatever you want to call it. So those kind of ideas I don't talk with them about. I go to Paul's teaching where he says everything is lawful, but not everything is expedient. It's, pick and choose where I want to. And if someone asks me, of course, I'm going to give my views and stuff, but I kind of keep all of this stuff for the channel here. And then, anywhere in my personal life, I can spread it. But
do you have trouble listening to milquetoast messages?
Well, what's interesting is I really like the pastor that we have.
Okay, so he's good.
And they only read out of the KJV, which is another thing was really hard to find. And the people are very nice, and they're but they're not overly nice. Like we tried a Mormon church, no offense to Mormons, but it was just like, it was too intense, and none of them read out of the KJV. They only read out of the Book of Mormon. And so, we ran from there. That's not my bag. That's not my scene. And but we do like this gathering, and in fact, that's why I'm leaving early tonight. They're having some little festival that we made some food for and stuff. So, and but yeah, so as much as I don't believe in religion, we found that besides our, Jeannie and I talking, or one of our children listens, and we have little Bible studies ourselves, we did miss a little bit of that gathering, and it's really hard to find. You're not going to agree with any one particular group, but this one is a small enough church to where I feel that, because they don't push any agendas, they don't talk political, they don't talk any of that stuff. He just uses the scriptures and relates it to ways that you can use it in your life. So, so we're fortunate that way. We're blessed to have found something like that.
No, that's good. It's funny. I was talking with I did a podcast the other day, and I've not released it yet, but I was talking with a brother, and he was, that comes up ever so often. Like, do you go to actual church? And then we're like, no.
Yeah.
And I do kind of wonder when, like, people, either us or people like us, will start a different kind of church that is completely against the mold of what we're used to, because we don't fit into any of these denominations.
No, you're right. And what I find is the people that have been indoctrinated in the church, in other words, they've grown up with it, they've, and they have that dispensationalism where suddenly everything's put on a pause button for like 2,000 years, and don't look at any of the melted structures or any of that stuff. Jesus is still coming. You're going to turn all those people off. They're not going to want to hear your message. I don't know how it was for you, but I didn't even think twice about, we weren't in right before Revelation. until I saw one person's video, and it was a gal, and she was posing the same question. And from there, I started looking into it myself. And that's when I started losing all my Christian friends, like on YouTube and stuff, because that's a very hot button, it seems.
Oh,
And it's
definitely. I mean,
unfortunate.
I don't blame certain people for unfollowing me because I started off talking about the end times. So then I say, well, you know what?
Yeah.
Remember when I said that? I meant, well, I'm going to say, I'm not going to backtrack. I'm going to say, like, you know, I was a little bit off on that. The end times are not now, they're 2,000 years ago. I mean, so that's difficult. I mean, so if you liked me because I was talking about, you know, the third temple being built and stuff like that, then yeah, I get it. But actually, I did have a really good comment, probably just like last week. Somebody mentioned that they unfollowed me and they unsubscribed because they couldn't take this little season stuff. And then they were back and they said, you know what? I gave it to God and I'm back. And I'm like, now I'm finally starting to get it. And so, I mean, I do think that that's happening too. So that's really cool. I mean, obviously that's really cool. And I said, I'm not mad at you for unsubbing
No.
because I get it. I mean, I get it. I mean, like the things I'm saying, like that I know when I first was talking about this stuff, and obviously people in my personal life, yeah, it made me nervous to tell them this. And when they asked me about stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I think that Jesus already came back. And like that's hard to say.
Yeah.
Because I know that people are gonna have strong opinions about that. And in the same way, kind of like biblical cosmology and stuff like that. They'd be like, oh, you're not a flat earther, are you? And you're like, well, actually, it's like I guess I don't bring these things up because I'm not looking to start disagreements and causing discord. But I mean, now when I get opportunities, and obviously I push back about certain things. I won't agree to certain things, and people see that. But for the most part, I feel like that our community has been doing a good job at educating and actually really are putting our main focus on the scriptures. And so I do find it interesting. And we bring this up is that so many people are willing to say, well, you guys need to be really careful what you're teaching because you're going to be accountable one day. And I was like, doesn't that kind of work for you too? So like, if I'm right, that means you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're so convinced that you're right that you're warning me, but do you know that applies to you as well?
You're 100% right on that because when we discuss what we talk about, I have the blessing of the backing of the voice of Jesus.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like it's written in red in my Bible. He's saying this is going to happen right away. This is coming. You'll see it. You'll see it. All of that's there. And when you try to add in the church dispensationalism, they have nothing to back it. They have like the one passage about rapture and they're talking about tribulation and stuff. And whatever that is, if that did indeed is happening, it already happened in my mind. That happened. We're the left behinds. We're the ones. In the end, how about this, JT? To me, it's a slam dunk. The Bible has been written of everything that happened, and it was packaged up and neatly shelved for the time that we could see it. And what's missing? The very last chapter. It just vaguely talks about the little season and a Gog-Magog war. And that's it. There's no details of when and where and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. That's because we're living it. It's being written as we live it. God knows the ending. He could have given it to us. But if you know that you're going to die, say in 10 years, well, then, hey, do whatever you want, or if you know what I mean? Like if we knew the ending to the Bible of all the details of the short season, then we wouldn't need to experience it. We just read it. Whereas to me, that's the one book of the Bible that's not written because we're experiencing it. It was left out for us so we wouldn't know all the stuff. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that it kind of makes sense. Like, why does the book end with Revelation, and why was there no books after Revelation?
Right.
Because you could have, because again, if like Moses, gave prophecies about the things that they were going to experience, like the Israelites were going to experience. He prophesies about basically all the stuff that happened during the times of Babylon and Assyria. So you had all these multiple prophets prophesying the same thing, repeating that. And if you don't repent, this is going to happen soon. So he's saying that over and over again. So why wouldn't it be in the same way that if John prophesied all the stuff from Revelation, Jesus prophesies the same things, Daniel prophesied that? Like, why couldn't God still use prophets today to, like, again, in 2,000 years, you could add a book or two to say, hey, remember that? That's still coming. Like, that's still coming. So why does it end? It kind of makes sense that it would have ended if it had happened. If it had happened, it would be no need to add anything to the book. And I think that makes sense. I said, I think I was kind of clowning on what's his name, Greg Locke, because Greg Locke was just going so far. He was talking about literally wanting them to build the third temple so Jesus could come back, and he was talking about blowing up the Dome of the Rock, the mosque there. And I was saying, just think about how crazy this sounds. So, it's weird because Jesus is clearly talking about the second temple. Daniel's talking about the second temple.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus in Luke 21, for sure, it's like he could not be more crystal clear that he's talking about the destruction of Jerusalem. So this is your end times chapter in the book of Luke. And so he mentions in Luke 19 as well, that the Romans or the enemy of Jerusalem is going to surround it and they're going to destroy it. And then he repeats it in Luke 21. Okay, so with that being said, so if you agree that Luke 21 is parallel to Matthew 24 and Mark 13, it's the end times chapters in these books.
Mm-hmm.
So if the end times has something to do with the destruction of Jerusalem, okay, so now let's talk about dispensationalism for 1 minute. So if they agree with that, so we're supposed to believe that God gathered back the Jews or Israel into Israel in 1948 so that he could destroy them one more time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he waited that long to gather them back, only to have them build a temple that he does not want.
Right.
And then to send an army in to destroy them one more time. And then they'll repent, and then he'll save them.
Correct. Plus, they also have to start sacrificing again to then stop.
Even though he doesn't want them to start sacrificing it, because there's obviously there's no prophecy about that happening. So again, he's doing this literally. He's like, you know what? They haven't learned their lesson. I'm going to gather them back just to destroy them one last time. Yeah. And then I'm going to save them. And I was like, does that sound stupid to anyone else? Does that sound unbiblical? And if it does, it's because it's not biblical. It literally makes no sense. Yeah. It makes more sense that God has given everybody the opportunity to accept his son and have access to the kingdom that's of heaven, the kingdom of God, the eternal kingdom. It's available to everyone right now. And then people to dispensationalism saying that God could do that at any moment. He could send the end times upon everyone, and then all of Israel would be saved. So what is he waiting for? In that kind of mindset, it's like God is allowing generation after generation, 50 generations or 40 generations since the time of Jesus to perish without him, in rebellion, when the prophecies are about him doing all of this stuff and then saving them all. So only the last generation gets saved, not all the ones in between.
Right.
To me, that paints a bad picture of God, right? To do it like that. I think to me, it's no, he was there offering all the things in the times of Jesus. There's only one Messiah. It's not this dual Messiah. He's going to come back differently. And then they'll be able to accept him. It's no, he came. Right. We all still have access to his promises, and anybody could accept them at any point. But to say that he's waiting for something, like I said, it makes him seem more cold-hearted because he's not saved. He could save them at any time, but he doesn't. I think he's given access to the kingdom to everyone right now.
I agree with that. I mean, the spirit. Oh, here they agree too.
Yep. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But I agree with that because, like we said, the Spirit of God is out right now. I was saved just not too long ago, a few years back. I didn't believe in any of these things. And then I started seeing all the lies of the world and things, and biblical earth cosmology. That one just knocked the wind out of me. But once you see it, it's a light going on. And to me, it's the same with this. Like once I stepped outside of the teaching the church was teaching and said, wait a minute, what about this, this, and this? And then listen to, like yourself and others that were discussing these things. There's just too much for me to try to go back now. It's like I can't believe the old ways anymore. When we've talked about it, and I pulled it up because I saw your show, all of the churches that are mentioned, the destruction coming, they're already destroyed. So, well, what was that warning for? If we're still waiting for that, like who's going to hear it? They're all gone. So then they have to once again skew the word of God and say, well, when he said this, he meant these people living in this area. And when he said that city, he really meant, and we're having to try to merge our own ideas when I like just reading the Bible, period. It says that word of God, will listen to it. And I don't see anywhere he says he's building a third temple. Like you say, he talks about the first temple. He talks about the second temple. It's, the Jews and the Talmud and all that. They're talking third temple, but they're also waiting for the Messiah. They didn't believe in Jesus again. And so, they're waiting for that red heifer and the sacrifice. And now they can't do it because there's a mosque there. So now they're going to do it on a mountain that's nearby and they can see it. None of that's biblically written. All of that.
No, it's all doctrines of men. And it's actually exactly what Jesus was against.
Right.
That they didn't care what he said, and they were putting their own ideas and laws and things above what God had said. And I think you're right. It's like that's the biblical cosmology, this topic in particular. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
You can't unsee the audience relevancy, the specificity of the timeline that they're talking about. Even I was reading Hebrews again because I was trying to make a different point about angels. And if you just go into, I guess, Hebrews 1:1, it says basically, I'm paraphrasing, but it said that there was a time that God spoke to his people through his prophets, but in the last days, he's speaking to us through his son. And it's like, so the author of Hebrews is obviously saying they're in the last days because that's how he's speaking to them. And I thought, it reminds me, I did a video talking about Glenn Beck, and Glenn Beck was talking with Tucker Carlson in some kind of podcast. And he was saying he thought they were living in the end times. And he's like, I know everyone says that the apostles said that and they were wrong. And I was like, that is really crazy to hear somebody say that, to admit that out loud. But he's in line with the modern church saying that. They would never be as bold to admit that they believed the apostles were wrong. But when you read what they wrote, they were either right or they were wrong, because if they're saying they're living in the last days, and don't give me this garbage that, well, we've been in the last days since Jesus. You're
2,000 years.
You make a mockery of everything he said when you say things his words lose all meaning. In the same way, I remember I really liked Good Fight Ministries, and I still like some of their stuff, but Pastor Joe Schimmel was out there making a video basically bagging on preterism, which again, we don't like to call ourselves that, but
no,
he was saying when Jesus said this generation won't pass away, he meant all the generations. And I was like,
so again, they're inserting their own
about?
ideas. When Jesus said this, what he really meant was wait a minute. No.
Well, right. And so he's saying that all generations until basically they turn to him. And but it's that loses all meaning of what he said when you say that. Because obviously we know what a generation means. Jesus knows what a generation means. When he says something specific, the people who were listening to him would have thought something based on what he said. So obviously they would have been confused as I am that you're making that answer. I hate to say it because I really don't like to call people out this strongly, but that sounds like what the serpent said to Eve. You know what I mean? Did he really say that?
Yeah, right. You're right.
Because us looking in hindsight saying, well, he didn't. It wasn't unclear. It was very clear.
Yeah.
But because the devil was tempting Eve, well, I don't know. Did he really say that? It's like, did he really say this generation won't pass away? What if he meant all of them?
And you know what's wild?
He could have meant that, but he obviously didn't mean that. He would have said that. He would have used different language if he meant every generation until 2000. And of course, again, like I always clown on that too. The dispensational thing is, of course, the gap's 2,000 years because that leads to us, right? Because if it was 3,000 years, they would be like, well, whatever, because we're not going to live through that. But apparently we're going to live just in time to experience the 7-year tribulation.
And you know what's wild about that when you say that, it's like when they say Jesus said this, but he really meant that. No, when he's speaking in parables, you know it. And when he's telling you something he really wants you to hear, he says verily twice usually, right?
Or he says, truly, I tell you, like I'm not trying to make this confusing. I'm telling you plainly, this is what I mean.
And when the disciples pull him aside privately and said, hey, can you tell us? And he's like, yeah, you're going to see it in this generation. Why would he be talking about some future thing? You know what I mean? They wanted to know for themselves.
Right. And he was not speaking in parables to them.
No.
Because they pretty much always show that like he was and because I think it was at Matthew 13 is when they ask him, why are you speaking in parables all the time? And then because he was basically saying it's because it's given to the kingdom, but not them. And he quotes Isaiah about they're going to look and not see, they're going to hear but not understand.
Yeah.
And so then he always explains the parables to them when they ask. So yeah, that's when people like really try to twist that. They say, oh, well, it's a parable of the olive tree. And you have to really understand that. That is not what it says, because he says, he's going to say, remember the parable of the olive tree. When you see the leaves start to bloom and its branches start to stretch out, summer's near. Also, when you see these things, you will know that it's at the very gate, at the door. Like these things are about to happen. So the parable is very short. Like you would know based on the olive tree, summer is near. So when you see these things I just told you, you will know this is upon you. And then he says the famous verse of, this generation will not pass away till all these things take place.
Yeah.
It's like I said, you cannot unsee that once you're willing to admit it. But I think like a lot of things, it's like, okay, so all of us had to come to that place. Like, so if that's true, what do I do with that?
Right.
And then eventually you accept it and you move on, and you could say like, well, I mean, God's promises are still good. So like, you don't worry about that. And I think that eventually if you can accept it, you're like, this book makes a lot more sense when I read it like this. And I think that's the comment we get most often, because, I joked before, I was talking to a buddy who used to be like a pre-trib guy, and I was a post-trib guy when I was first making videos.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to always say, well, what about this verse? What about this verse? What about this verse? What about this verse? And then the guy would be like, you have to go watch this other guy's video. And I was like, oh, what other guy? I was like, what verses is he quoting? No, you have to watch the video. And I was like, how long is it? It was like a 90-hour series. And I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to watch that. It's like, if it's not simple, this is not complicated.
Right.
Like it's not like you get to these people, it's like lawyers speak, like that they try to explain this thing to, and they got their graphs and they got all this other thing. And everybody's confused, but he seems like he knows what he's talking about. So it's like, all right, yeah. I mean, tribulation, or we're going to be gone for the tribulation happens. Fine. He seems pretty smart. I'll sign up for that. Let's go.
Well, it's funny. I actually took a class to learn about because I want to know, okay, I didn't grow up in a church, obviously. So what is their ideas on tribulation? And the breakdown of this class was, it's impossible to be, by his teachings, it's impossible to be a mid-trib or a post-trib, because then you know the dates of things. So it has to be only pre-trib. Okay, so that's their idea. But the problem with that is, I believe, well, the way I remember the passage, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Or excuse me, that's the way it is now. My people perish for lack of knowledge, the way I remember it, which is way more scary to me, perishing. And that's my idea, that if you're believing that you're going to be whisked out of here before any bad things happen, and then bad things happen and you're still here, is that part of the falling away that they always talk about? Because if you're waiting for, your Christmas and it doesn't show up, I think that's going to make a lot of people kind of depressed. And so, like you said, I think the people that are pointing fingers at us saying you shouldn't talk like this, they got to watch out and be prepared. Because if they're waiting for something like that and it doesn't come the way they had prophesized, that's where I'm worried about them,
Yeah, I remember this was one that I really understood. This is the one I remember even when I was post-trib, it made sense. And of course, like you said, I still believe in the post-trib rapture, I guess, or whatever that was, because Jesus says immediately after the tribulation of those days, it's like he kind of tells. It's not like Revelation when Jesus talks in Matthew 24. He tells then this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this, like he gives the order. But I used to always think about this when he explains the parable of the seeds, and he says that, and this is the parable of the sower, because he was saying that. Okay, so he was explaining like the different types of soil and where the seeds went, and this is Matthew 13, and he says, this is Matthew 13 verse 20. As for what was sown on rocky ground, this is the one who hears the word immediately, receives it with joy, yet has no root in himself, but endures for a while. And when tribulation and persecution arises on account of the word, immediately he falls away.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it was always like, well, yeah, right. If you expect to not have to go through hard things because you're going to be gone, what happens when you go through hard things? Like, because literally people when I was first talking about like the post-trib rapture, people were like, well, you're taking people's hope away. And I was like, well, maybe your hope is misplaced, because he says you're going to go through tribulation and then you think it's going to be this other way. And it's like, oh, wait, well, God's let me down. It's like, no, he hasn't let you down. You're wishing for, you're hoping for something that's not promised. I remember that was one of those things that that was the thing I really tried to recognize. Like when I started to read my Bible again and I was going through a tough time in my life, and I thought, I need to hang on to what's promised and accept what could be if it's not promised. So like that's literally, I mean, I think that's literally what being a Christian is all about, is like believing in God's promises. So like if you believe in something that he hasn't promised,
Yeah.
and that's pretty dangerous, because you need to hang on to what is promised, and you obviously need to take heed of what he's warning about. But if you're wishing for a promise that never happened, and like that's where all your hope is, well, gosh, that sounds like
dangerous to me.
Sounds like not good soil, because obviously the good soil was the one who had understanding. It took deep roots, and then it produced fruit. So that, I mean, that's what the Bible says.
And like Lola is asking if it already happened. Yeah, we believe whatever the rapture is, whenever it post, pre, and whatever you want to take your take on it. If we're living in the little season, then that did happen, whatever that event was. So
yeah, it would have happened, because obviously, I've gone back and forth about that. I mean, I don't want to be dogmatic about it, because it obviously was 1 Thessalonians 4:17. It sure sounds like a rapture. It sounds like those who are alive and remain are caught up in the clouds. So, I've heard people say that maybe they die first and then they get caught up. But I mean, it's like, put it this way, like whenever that was going to happen, I believe that would have happened in the timeline already.
And how about this? How about this? Even let's say we're crazy wrong on this whole thing. The rapture is going to happen, and everyone that'll believed in it, and they'll be gone. And maybe you and I'll go. Maybe we need to be left behind for some more lessons. It doesn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, we're all waiting for the same thing, for the return of Christ. That's it. Yeah. And we keep our eye on the prize and not worry about all the stuff in between. We believe that you're in the post rapture, post tribulation, post millennial reign days, it takes away all that discussion. Is it going to happen? When? Before? After? It's all gone. And if it happens and we were wrong, then great. But I'm not gonna focus on that, because like you say, it's not necessarily something he focused on. They're taking like one passage and And, you know, Jesus, he talked a lot about the end times and stuff more than anything, than any kind of rapture. So that's what I'm going to focus on, where he promised he'll be back in final judgment.
Well, what he really, obviously, you think about, like when he was talking about the master going on a trip, he was giving people things to do. And he's like, blessed are the ones who are doing what they're asked to do when I get back. And so, like, in the same kind of way that if there's a second rapture or something, there's another return in our lifetime, you should be doing what you're supposed to do. You know, it's not like you're definitely not supposed to be telling people about something that's not in the Bible. You know, I think that, you know, that's the dangerous part, is like somebody saying like, well, don't worry, nothing bad's going to happen to us because we'll be gone. It's like, well, that is contrary to almost everything in the Bible altogether. Just like, because you're thinking like, why would God ever let anything bad happen to one of his people? And you're like, have you read about the prophets? Have you ever read the book of Jeremiah? That cracks me up. It's like that like both Jeremiah and Ezekiel is basically like, God's like, I'm going to give you my words. I'm going to make you tell everything. No one's going to listen to you. You know, like,
yeah.
And not only that, Jeremiah, it's like, they're really not going to like you.
No, right?
They're going to beat you.
Like you.
You know, throw you in a cistern. They're going to beat you a bunch. You know, like everybody in this town is going to hate you, basically, for the things I'm going to tell you. So, you know, like, so that's what God is. Why would God ever let that happen? It's like, because he's God. You ever read the book of Job? Yeah, that's another one. Why would God ever let that happen? Anything bad? Yeah. It's like Job didn't do anything wrong. And Job was obviously having, you know, about the roughest time ever.
You know what? Here's the thing about the book of Job. It's interesting to bring that up. It's one of my favorite books, and I'll tell you why. Is because the first time I read that, I was upset. Like, this poor guy, and to me, it was like the movie Trading Places, where they like bet on people's lives for $1. Yeah. Here's God and the devil making bets on this guy's life. I thought this is terrible. And the people that haven't read the Bible, they'll go for that and say, how can you love a God that does this? But they haven't read the story and understood it. What you see is a progression of a person. First of all, the fact that Job was picked for this. He was he had most of everything and anybody in history, basically. It sounded like he had all the land and the people and the money. And he had everything he ever wanted in a huge family. And so
he was wise. He was wise. He had respect of everyone too.
Right. So there's certain people in the Bible that were chosen for examples. And the reason I say that is so we don't have to go through that. Or if we're struggling and we're going through things, we can use that as comfort to see how these things were tested and to check our faith and to prove ourselves. And if we can't figure out how to get through it, God will get us through it. Because when you read that book, yeah, he loses everything monetarily and everything earthly and his family and everything. It's terrible. He gets covered in sores. And I think this is a funny thing too. The devil ends up killing every one of his family, but not his wife. Right? And his wife's like,
the cruelest part of the whole
he goes, she says, you need to kill yourself and stuff. And so people are like, hey, devil, you forgot to kill his wife. He's like, no, I got an idea. I think she's on our side.
She's got a purpose here.
Right? And so he loses everything. His friends don't know what's going on. But at the end, what does God say? He says that the other people that were there commiserating should only hope that Job will pray for them, because he never forsook God. He praised him. And at the very end, all he ever did was say, can you just take my life? I can't deal with this anymore. I don't know how to make you happy. You know, he went through that moment.
He did question if God was just or not.
Right. And he got some smackdown. That's my favorite part. When God starts yelling at everyone. But in the end, what happens? He gets double everything back, and he gets a second family. And you go, what about the first one? Well, if we believe the way we do, you're going to see them again. We're all going to be, in heaven with Christ. And so he doubled up everything in his life. But then it was written down. So that way, if we're going through times, there's people right now going through really difficult, tough times right now.
Yeah.
And it's a way that you can look and say, God didn't check out. He's still here. And I'm sorry you're going through this. I can't tell you with my human brain why he's putting us through this or that or the other.
Mhm.
But in the end, it's to bring us to where he needs us to be. And he's more concerned about our character than our comfort, obviously. And so he's getting us to where we need to be right. And so why do bad things happen to good people? I can't answer that. Only God can. But the reason I believe Job was chosen, just like Moses and Daniel, I mean, they all went through strife. Joseph got thrown in a pit and sold into slavery. And
well, that's what I was just thinking. Like, do you think that maybe, I never really thought about it, like, do you think the book of Job might even have something to do with like the story of Jesus? Obviously, Jesus had a rough go of things, and he didn't deserve any of the things that happened to him either. I think the easiest one to example to see is to see like the story of Joseph. I love that one because it's like there's so many parallels between Joseph and Jesus. So I think that maybe in the same kind of way, it's like that like it didn't have anything to do with deserved, had nothing to do with it. You think of that movie, The Unforgiven. Deserve ain't got nothing.
Yeah, right. I love that movie.
It is interesting you brought up Trading Places because the way I think of that movie, it's like I bet you that the writers thought of the Book of Job when they were writing that.
Absolutely.
It makes perfect sense because it's like, it's a cruel bet, because it's like God doesn't really bet anything. It's like he doesn't get anything if he's right.
Right.
So it's just like the devil is just saying he's going to do this. And you're right. The question I've always thought in my mind is the wife. Was the wife part of the second family?
Isn't that funny? He lets her live. No, I got plans for her. She's
she's gonna play a role in here. Curse God and die. Job. Thanks.
And then I got a question.
Honey.
That's an interesting question. When it all comes back to him, does he oust her? Is she they hit the streets? They don't really talk about her anymore, I don't think.
That was back in the day when they had many wives. I hope he had a backup.
All right, what do you got? Let's see. Where is that thing? Here it is. Nice. Okay. Well, here, let me clear some tabs so this will run better, and we can talk about this whole idea. Because I do a thing where I get in trouble. I come up with an idea and I promote it, and then I never even get to the main subject. So, but this is a fascinating topic. I can talk to you about the little season every day of the week. It's just we need more and more eyes and ears, I think, on this subject. And the more we can get it out there, the more it's going to help people. That's my feeling. Let's see. All right. So I started looking into breakfast. And the reason I was looking into breakfast was I was talking to my mother and I asked her, what did you have for breakfast? And there was like bacon, eggs, toast, juice. And the same thing with her parents. And for the longest time, that's what people were having. And, they tell us nowadays all that's bad for you. In fact, here, I got to put I'll put my banner up. I'm not a doctor. These are just my thoughts and my observations. And so if eggs, bacon, toast, juice are bad for you, and we should all be eating more breads and cereals and all that stuff, I looked up the BMI, the body index, from body mass index.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at the numbers, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can make it larger. There we go. So if you go to from the 1850s all the way up until you hit, say, 1920, they were
do
way
you
down.
think we can really use any stats from the 1850s?
Oh, I know. I always make jokes about that too. When they talk about all the people that died, like when I was a kid going to school, it bothered me, this whole, what was it? The one, I think it was the Black Death or whatever that was. And they had like, and the stats, like they like change as to how many millions died or whatever. And I'm like, who's keeping track of that? Of course, apparently it was the church. But you expect like Monty Python, bring out your dead, and the guy throws him on the cart and somebody hits a clicker. Like, how did they keep track of this?
Mm-hmm.
So any of these records,
those are the same people who are keeping track of how long it took to build a building.
Correct.
That one took 1 year.
Yeah. 1 year. What about winter? We worked right through it.
Yeah, we carried the materials both ways were uphill and everything, and
Yeah.
it was always snowing then.
Yeah, 10 inches of snow, but we did it. Damn it. Those
Mhm,
mules were
mhm,
working overtime.
mhm.
Yeah, so okay, so understanding these records are BS. But look at this. So in 1920, it spikes up, but it's still at a 22. Okay. And in fact, all the way up until the 80s here, we're peaking at like 24. And what does that even mean? So if you do you can find these charts and you can enter it in and get your weight as far if you're healthy or obese. And according to the BMI index, anything up to 24.9 is in the normal range. So even at the height of this in the 80s, where was it? What was the normal is? Yeah, just under 25. We're still there
Mhm.
in the 80s. But you can see
You know, BMI though, they don't take into account of like muscle either though. So it's
right.
it's kind of like a junk stat, really.
I'm building a case. Don't get caught up on this one completely. So you can see what happened in 1920. It started going up. All right. And so when you look at the stats now, the nationwide obesity rates have tripled since the 60s. And you can see the numbers. Look at it, we're just going way up. And what did I look into? What did I find out? That, well, first of all, the second industrial revolution, they say, changed our lives because more people worked at factories and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that.
Especially those kids that were on
Right,
trains.
right, the orphans. But the breakfast changed. The cereal was invented in 1920. And which one was it? And this is weird how this stuff works. I didn't even know this when I was making the thumbnail. I just chose Wheaties, and that's the first one. In 1920, a health clinician, is that how you say that? Accidentally spilled wheat bran mixture, if you believe this story, on a hot stove, creating Wheaties, the breakfast of champions.
Man, every one of these old stories sounds so made up.
I know, right? Right. Like the guy tripped and spilled. Look, I've spilled shit all the time. The guy never created it. I create a mess.
Eureka!
Yeah.
This is gonna sell like hotcakes.
So yeah, 100%. It's just a garbage story. But
That's how the guy invented the pet rock. He tripped over one.
Right.
Hey, wait a minute.
I
think I could use this thing. I bet you people would like to buy this thing.
I just add some googly eyes and put it in a little house. Oh my God.
It is. It's like those are the kind of stuff that we got told in school. That's why I said I joked I had Madeline from Leaving Babylon on. I said we talked all about all the free energy and all the stuff, and I said and she went through all the history of it, and I said, yeah, but you left out the part where Benjamin Franklin discovered electricity by tying a key to a kite. You forgot about that. I mean, like, obviously, nobody even knew they didn't even know lightning was electric until the 1700s.
Right.
Now, how stupid does that really sound? Like, it's embarrassing that we ever believed that crap because it sounded like a long time ago. It's like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, everyone was dumb before then, so of course,
yeah.
All these happy little accidents, like what's his name, Isaac Newton. Sitting under an apple tree, just reading, and then all of a sudden, an apple just bonks him on the head.
And
things fall down.
When you read writings, when you read his writings, he didn't want to be associated with that story. It's really funny when you start seeing on the other side of the veil of this stuff.
Oh, well, I think it's in the way that I linked the two together. It's very clear when you think about it, like the Apple logo, the original Apple logo that was Newton sitting under the tree. It's all about gnosis. It's like the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's how he discovered gravity. That's why there's an apple with a bite out of it. It had to be an apple tree, right? I know a lot of people saying nobody said in the Bible that it's an apple. I'm saying, but they say it's an apple. That's why it's an apple with a bite out of it. So he got the knowledge from the serpent.
Yeah, I like it. So this guy tripped, fell, and he created Wheaties. And what I found was interviewing people of older generations, They were, well, forget the pancakes, but they were eating eggs because a lot of them were farmers, and bacon and sausage and things like that. And these are the things that now, of course, the doctors tell us are unhealthy for us. And they want us to eat more grains and cereals and stuff. And what's interesting when you look at, because there's also this whole idea that Edward Bernays, he's the one
Oh
that
yeah.
created All American Breakfast. I think he just added to it because they were already doing this farming and stuff. I think he added like pancakes and whatever potato just to get more starches and stuff and make it a huge meal and make it a story. But I don't know. I wasn't there. All I know is when you look at the people and what they used to eat.
Is that where they get Bernays sauce from?
Correct. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, from this guy, Edward Bernays.
Client was reaching that out.
That guy.
That the American public ate very light breakfast.
So he preaches that they have a really
the
big
model
breakfast.
the model of health right there.
Doesn't he?
Probably him at age 50.
I think it was 39 actually. Here.
He looks like he's got a mouth like a ventriloquist dummy.
You're right. Well, most of them are ventriloquist dummies.
Making the mouth move.
I gotta look at that closer. You're right. Look at that. It looks
all
like,
of them concurred.
It's like Charlie McCarthy doll I had as a kid. It's exactly that. That's funny.
That a heavy
I'm gonna take health advice from this guy.
Well, if you look at all the health advisors we have nowadays, they're horrible.
Fair point. I don't listen to them either, though.
Yeah, right.
I'm saying 4,500 physicians.
Anyway, so
why is his head moving like that?
Because that's where that's the Muppet puppet.
Urge heavy breakfast in order to improve health of American people.
Is he smoking a stogie too?
He's clearly got lots of issues.
Yeah, get health advice from him.
Went up, and I still have a letter from Bartlett Arkell, president of Beechnut Packing Company, telling me so.
So there you go. He has the letter. But yeah, they think that they, started the American breakfast, whatever. All I know is it went from what seemed to be healthy, and slowly started. I mean, even this stuff, this is a lot of what we got to go over to England one time, and they have a lot of things with beans and meats and stuff. Even that stuff's going to be good for you, I believe. Again, I'm not a doctor, but you can see where these things started changing to more convenience, and got into cereal, got into spam and margarine, like things that aren't even, real food, and cereals. And so when I started looking at all of this idea and how this breakfast has changed, and they even say after World War II, that's when they had the big push on breakfast cereals.
I bet you don't wonder what the correlation is. Probably you have the 2-parent household, so because
100% that, yeah.
If the mom is staying home and she's she can cook for the kids, but if the mom's rushing out to work like the dad is, hey, just pour this thing into a bowl and with some milk, and then you're good.
And kind of that's where I'm going with this, is like as you go through the generations, I mean, you get to our generation, at least mine. I mean, everything just became about the kids and their cereal. And when you see how much sugar they pack in these things, you've taken a healthy breakfast, you've made it more convenient and fast. But now they're just eating all this processed food.
Yeah, see, I think that's probably the bigger issue than the carbs. I know everybody's really anti-carbs, but I did a bunch of endurance sports and I lived on carbs. And I actually, the one thing I learned that I think the one thing is like not everyone's the same. So some people can have more, some people can have less, and obviously your activity level has a lot to do with it. But I think that the real culprit in all this is the food we're eating is not food. It's
correct.
It's all the preserved. I said, it's kind of funny as you think about it, that most of us go to the grocery store at least once a week. Well, I don't know if most of us, but I know like the people I know, we go to the grocery store once a week, and you eat most of the regular food you eat around that time. It takes a week, and you're done with it. Why do we need so many preservatives in our food?
Right.
We don't. So the reason that there is a bunch of preservatives is because obviously they pump this crap out and then they keep it in warehouses, they freeze, they do whatever, and obviously they can continue to sell it, so they can make a lot of it. You know, but we don't need that. We don't need preservatives if we're going to eat it within the week you buy it. But yet we have it anyways. You think about it, like even like eating canned foods that would last forever, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but you don't need canned foods because you're going to eat it this week. You know, to buy something that's in a can that would last for 50 years and then eating it right away, it's like you're eating all that stuff that you don't need. And like, what is that stuff? I think the craziest thing is when I started going down the rabbit hole of all the conspiracies, and I had people sending me stuff about like the food labels here compared to the food labels in Europe.
Oh yeah, I covered that. It's
That
wild.
is like, that actually was like made me physically ill. I was just like,
yeah, most of the stuff we eat is banned in other countries.
I know. And so we have an FDA that rubber stamps everything that these big food corporations want them to put in the food.
And I just have to interrupt you really fast. Look at this is from over in Europe somewhere. The cereals they have, the second worst cereal for kids. It's got a panda on
it. Oh, you know that's got some fake ingredients in that one.
Exactly.
It's got a bunch of black and white dye in it.
Yeah, right.
It's really a dog on the cover.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's yeah. And I talked about that too. I did a whole show on preservatives and stuff, and I'm like, if everyone has trouble trying to stay, healthy on all their food all the time, try to get your food that has the least amount of like words you can't pronounce. There's some of them that have words that have numbers in them and stuff like, glumacus 39 die 4. You know what I mean? It's like none of it makes any sense. So
you need to get like ingredients that if you couldn't type it all out in the Twitter, like if you run out of characters, don't eat it.
Don't eat it. Yeah. If you can't say it, if it's got too many, what do you call it? Too many letters and consonants in it, then maybe it's not good for you and to pass. So, but that's the thing. There's a war on like, don't eat meat, don't eat eggs, don't eat butter. Meanwhile, the same people that said don't eat butter, eat margarine, which is, basically a lubricant. Now then they change their minds. Oh, okay. You shouldn't eat margarine. You should eat butter, and don't eat the sugar, eat the substitutes. Oh, wait, that gives you cancer. Go back to sugar. It's like the natural stuff that God provides, everything in moderation. It's all about diet and exercise. If you overeat these things, you're going to, affect your body. And if you don't exercise at all, that'll affect it too. It's pretty straightforward.
I think it's also, just most of us have sedentary lifestyles, our jobs, don't require us to move. And then we literally have to go exercise outside of our jobs. And I think that's outside of the order that God gave us. It's like, I often thought as a guy who really liked working out but I like doing stuff. So what if I instead of going to the gym, I was doing a job where I was like hunting for food, or I was building something that we needed. You know what I mean? You had satisfaction at the end of the day because you built something that you needed. You hunted. You got exercise doing all those actual productive things, and then you didn't have to eat poison because you did all the things you require. And it's funny because and I think that's how it used to be back in the day, that the people worked during obviously spring, summer, and fall, and they didn't do a lot of work in the wintertime. So it wasn't constantly, it was like you obviously store up things and then you have enough. And then when you have enough, how much you can take and you can store. But now it's like we just obviously store up riches and then we buy food with rat feces in it. Only a little bit though, because the FDA doesn't require
the FDA allows a certain amount.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
It's funny. I was thinking about that with the cereal and about the chemicals and stuff. Think about the movie Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. Do you guys remember what he was working on in his one of his big thing he was pitching to his boss? He was working on some certain kind of coating for the cereal that it wouldn't get soggy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so eventually he talks about he has like some of the chemicals he's made. He made the lubricant for his sled, and it almost killed him because he was going like light speed. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But that was kind of like that's what he did. But it's
Yeah.
funny to think about like if that's what these people are working on. It's like if you let your cereal sit in milk too long, it should get soggy, and if it doesn't, I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, it's just like
shouldn't it get soggy just because obviously when we try to chew it and the enzymes in our body should dissolve it, or is it going to be crunchy inside of us?
It's going to be like corn kernels. They'll just show up later.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
unintended consequences.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, but okay. I forgot all about. I saw this go by early. Thank you, DJ. God bless you. She was another one in Florida that had to withstand all that nonsense going on out there, and praying for all the people that are still being affected by that in North Carolina. Let's see. Let me. Yeah, you missed a little bit. We started early, but then there's a show after this. So just so you know. Oops. Okay. And why don't I finish up these tabs here? Clickety click. Go here and here. Let's see this one. I like this. The internet to me cracks me up. Is there an air fryer talking about eating healthy? Is there an air fryer that can handle a family of 8? And the person writes, "Take it easy, Jeffrey Dahmer." And if that's not enough, then this person gets triggered. Not funny. That man was sick and mentally unstable. He was a murderer, and murder's not funny. And then they wrote, "Is this your first day on the internet?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's what you're going to get when you post things like this out there. So, yeah, I couldn't work the air fryer. Every time we'd say like try to put a chicken in it, it all came out raw and burned, and so we gave it ours away. And then of course they come out and say, "Now that's unhealthy for you." So whatever, I'll stick with my cast iron and my regular oven or wood fire and call it a day. The old ways are the best, we're finding. I'm telling you. And it is a scientific fact that it's impossible. I know this for a fact. It's impossible for a man to use a stud finder without first scanning himself with it and stating the room. Found one, right? Am I right?
You got to find out if it works or not.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So, okay. So here's my idea. People on the beach in 1940, like we saw in the statistics, there's no body fat that I could find in any of these pictures. Very, very, if any, little. And that was the people in the 40s on the beach. Then I put in the people on the beach in the 50s. And once again, you're seeing the same ideas. Everybody's pretty much in shape. And these are the people eating, the bacon and eggs and stuff. I guess they're starting to have more cereals and stuff and processed food here. And then you click into the 60s. I'm still getting the same basic structure of people as you see on all these photos. So then I went and let's see, 70s. I'm still seeing it. Remember, we used to go out on the beach and we wouldn't have suntan lotion. We would, in fact, some people put baby oil to get a darker tan.
And good old days,
right? We didn't have any issue with that. And then you fast forward and you go into 1980. I don't know, maybe a little bit, not much. It's not changing too drastically still. So then I jumped up and I went to the year 2022, and it's completely changed now. Who you're seeing on the beach, you're seeing a lot more people that are obese by the standard, okay, or have a few more pounds on them, anyways. And then when I went to 2024, they actually have Fat Day at the beach. And, so
they have Fat Day.
It's called Fat Day. New York City held Fat Day at the beach, which to me sounds like, it's not PC to say that, but that's what they did. they had Fat Day at the beach. So,
okay, I guess,
and you wouldn't normally, back in the day, this, we're talking, well, I don't want to body shame anyone, but come on, this is not healthy. I don't care what the mainstream media says. It's not healthy to have Fat Day at the beach. It just isn't. It's not good for their their hearts or any of this stuff.
I mean, as long as they're not allowed to go to the beach the other 364 days, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. And why are we allowed to have fat beach day? Why, are we going to do all the other different ones that we could have too? Is there like different race day that you'll have at the beach and stuff?
You know that they already do that. You have to know that. It's like, that's the kind of thing, like you wake up one day and it's like, it's International Donut Day. It's like, it is. And then the next day is like International whatever day, pretzel
pizza,
day. And you're like,
hot dog. Yeah, they do.
You're like, oh, come on now.
Yeah. When I was growing up, there was hardly any like special days. Now there's one, like you say, for pretty much every food group.
If every day is special, no days are special.
No day is special. That's very true. See, I said it because I couldn't get to the button. So, and then I looked at another thing. Everyone goes to the gym. When did the gyms become popular? Well, according to all the articles I could find, it was in the late 70s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I just showed you that all these people throughout history never really had a gym. And yet somehow they stayed healthier than the people nowadays, and everyone goes to the gym.
I blame 80s action movies.
Tell me.
For the gym.
Why is that?
Because I watched Rocky and Rambo, and I watched Commando and the Terminator and Predator, and I was like, I started looking at the arms. I'm like, I need to step it up.
I hear you. That makes sense. But again, I'm just showing that it's because of our food and our diet and exercise and the other poisons that we inject in ourselves that are affecting us. Because they didn't need gyms back in the day, and everyone was already healthier than they are now. And you look at the deaths of heart disease and how much they spiked after we started eating bad. And like you said, the family unit gets broken up and both parents are working. And so the kids are doing a lot more microwave meals. That was big in the 70s. It came out then, Hungry Man, all that stuff. And cereal with sugar for breakfast.
Well, just even think about it back in the day. Like, I remember my dad, he used to always talk about how he worked at McDonald's when like that was a brand new place. They cooked actual hamburgers back in those days. Like, that the meat that they use versus the meat they use today, we know. Like, when I say whole different animal, I mean like probably literally like a whole different animal. Like what, so like all food is obviously not created equal. You could have like the same general types of food, but like, are they actually the same food? I think that's what most people have like really, that's concerning to me. Like, that's why like when we go to get steaks and things like that, we'll pay extra to get the grass fed ones because like the ones that are fed all these corn and all this GMOs, like I didn't understand that stuff before, but it's funny, like stuff like beef. They always talk about how bad beef is for you because they always talk about the corn-fed kind.
Mm-hmm.
But the grass-fed kind is like good for all the reasons the other kind is bad. And it's like, it kind of makes sense. It's like, I know going to get like a pack of like chicken thighs. I like chicken thighs better than the breast. It just tastes better. And then, but I go to some of them and I'm like, you look at how big they are. Like, this is not normal. Like, that these chickens don't naturally have thighs like this.
Yeah, right.
So they're pumping them through of all kinds of stuff. And it makes sense. Obviously, they pump them full of whatever to get them heavier because they sell it by the pound. And so that's the concerning part, because again, like the things are already expensive, and then having to try to buy the food that is actual food, or like actually, that has more food in it than the other food.
Yeah.
It's super expensive, but at the same time, we should all remind ourselves of this, is the fact that yes, that food is more expensive, but you get what you pay for. And maybe one day you're going to pay for medical, issues because you chinched on the real food. And I really do think like that whole expression about you are what you eat. It's like, you don't expect to be healthy if you're eating like stuff that's literally toxic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what are the long-term effects of eating all this, food with chemicals and hormones and stuff in it?
And that's the other thing. They make us think that the only way we can solve our issues and heal ourselves is through the different pills, injections, and things like that. That's modern science. They just, and I'm not knocking the doctors. It's the way they're being taught. It's like, oh, your toe is throbbing. Then you probably have this. Try this pill. Oh, that one didn't work. Try this pill. And and then you end up like my parents. I mean, my dad, before I believe, over medicated him, was on like 14 different things, and
Oh yeah.
they in fact, that was the stat I just had here. I'll show you this. Pretty much all men, I'd say over the age of 40, are being pushed for statins, which is like to help your cholesterol. Look at how many their prescriptions they're writing and how it keeps going up. And this ended at 2018.
We must be getting really healthy then, right?
Exactly. For all the extra,
they must be curing all these issues,
right? Just like this is diabetes, and watch that thing spike as it goes up, and they're even projecting it to even go higher.
So all that work Wilford Brimley did
right down the tubes
did not.
No,
it moved the needle in the wrong way. We all thought it was funny after he said it.
I know he does say it funny. Diabetes. Oh geez. But and then now, of course, not to get too wild on my ideas, but there was an article that I read recently, and they described, because a lot of our children now have all these allergies.
I've wondered that, but the peanut thing is
right. They came out with an article just recently. It said that because they did an experiment where they were not allowing children to eat peanuts until they were like, I don't know, 3 or 4, then from now on, the generations, I guess we mutated, it's evolution. Now we all have the peanut allergy that they never had before, because that makes sense, doesn't it? It's brought to you by the same people that told you that building was built in a year.
That is the opposite of evolving, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Being more susceptible to things sounds like devolving.
I agree.
Right? I mean, like how is that? So we're supposed to believe in natural selection and that things improve over time in the theory of evolution. Why would ever something that, like, obviously people like I lived on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh my God, yes.
So, and I pretty much like all the mixed nuts. I love almonds and peanuts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Pistachios.
So check this.
The idea that like that is a good thing, preposterous.
And check this out. Peanut allergies were relatively rare until a few decades ago.
It was rare. Like I said, nobody knew anybody who was allergic to peanuts back in the day.
And so in the 1990s is when they're saying that's when it all kind of kicked off. And a completely unrelated topic. This has nothing to do with what we were just discussing.
Okay.
But look at this. It's interesting. So yeah, right around 1983, a lot more of this stuff is happening. And this is 2016. I believe it's up to over 70 that the child gets to, preventative medicine, of course. They're even giving like children now, what is that one? Hep C and stuff that you can only get through sex. Doesn't make any sense now.
It's just, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think that I think that now, I know my niece had to get a shot before she could start her senior year in high school.
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, why would they ever, like, before your senior year in high school? Like, so you've already gone to all the other grades.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it has nothing to do with anything else besides.
Right. And it has, like I said, it has nothing to do with
you to do something. Yeah.
This was a separate article. I'm sure they're completely.
Completely. Yeah.
I just
want to draw your own conclusions.
Exactly. I want to make sure YouTube understands that. I don't know what I'm looking at here. I'm just showing it.
He's got a lot of tabs open.
I do. Thank you. Okay. So that was this I thought was interesting, because as much as I thought we were weird looking, no offense to people I got people over on the other side of the pond, but in the 80s, I mean, they look just as weird as we did. I'm just saying.
Just as weird? I don't know. I think the
You
Brits
think more?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's true. You got a lot of talking heads looks, and what was that one? The birds, flock of
God.
seagulls. Got some of those looks. That
Wait
one
a
looks
minute.
like Rick
That way they
Astley.
look the same. That woman and that guy, right?
I don't know how to back this up, but that looks like what's that? Never Gonna Give You Up. That guy.
Oh yeah, Rick Roll. Yeah,
Rick Roll. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I just thought this was kind of interesting because I did not.
I just think it's a small island,
Yeah.
and I think that they might not
Flock
have
of
as many
seagulls.
many options as we do.
That could be. That could be.
So I'm not, I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
And this person came back from the Diddy white parties, I guess, because they're all dressed in white. Which I just saw, by the way, another thing that The Simpsons showed in advance. They went to a Diddy white party, and suddenly
Did they mention Carl Winslow?
I don't believe they did. So, all right,
yeah, that'd be a pretty dark episode of The Simpsons.
I haven't seen it. I just saw like clips of it. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I had to touch on this because just like Hollywood, let's continue to ruin things. And for those of us that actually do like the Batman lore and stuff, I've heard that who's that one guy, Jared Leto?
Yeah, Jared Leto, yeah.
He's excited because he's now no longer the worst Joker in history.
I think he's still the worst, but I think that like he wasn't in the worst movie.
That's what it is. You're right. I agree. I misspoke. He's still the worst, but he's no longer in the worst movie. Because who thought this is a good idea to have the Joker and Lady Gaga singing? Obviously no one, because this thing's already tanked.
You do have to wonder. I was talking about this the other day that like some of the decisions like ad execs make now, and like people like who obviously run billion-dollar industries, and they do the things that make no sense at all. No sense at all. It's like when they fail, like everyone's like, well, how did they not see that coming? So to me, I don't like to say that they're just stupid.
No,
I think like it's like they're doing this on purpose because you know who the demographic who'd watch a Joker movie is. They're not the same kind of people who'd watch musicals.
No.
I mean,
there's
pretty
no way
obvious,
it didn't go some big table meeting where they're like, one guy go, excuse me, are you sure this is, no, they knew what they were doing when they did this.
Yeah. You think about it, like say they said, hey, here's an idea. Compromise. The Joker will sing a song. He danced on the stairs in the other one.
Yeah.
Maybe he can sing in this one. He'll do one song. But to do a musical, it's like, what? Like, no, that's a dumb idea. We should bring Batman into the story. That's what actually make, like that's what somebody would say. How about Batman?
And in addition,
and they'd be like, no, we're gonna have them sing. We're gonna have Lady Gaga instead. And one guy's like, wait, what? That would actually be a funny skit. Would be the one guy who was like giving all like the real good advice.
Yeah, and everyone's telling him to shut up. He doesn't understand people anymore. Yeah,
this is 2024. Yeah.
And you know what?
That's
Insult to injury. The red carpet party that they have for this movies, the elite people that were invited to that, because this guy, what's his name, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
he made them make meatless sliders.
Like that's kind of like a Joker musical,
Yeah, right. Exactly. It was those two things shouldn't be together, just like the Joker musical, a meatless slider.
We need Paul from Understanding Conspiracy to say, is there anything more demonic than somebody dressed up like clowns
singing
in a musical?
You're right, because he is the clown look like Nephilim, so he's right.
Yeah, they probably did that. The Rakshasa did that in somewhere in the Far East at some point. They sing.
So anyway, so that was that. And just to show you the cancel culture, I did a whole thing on do I still have, let me bring this up. I still have it on here. Hold on a second. Let's see. Let me bring this out. Clickety click here. Where is it? It's under videos. I can't seem to find it. It takes me a while sometimes to find these things. But yeah, the culture with James Bond nowadays.
They still make those movies?
Well, no, that's the thing. They spoiler alert, they killed him off on the last one. And I understand it now when you see what they did to him.
Oh yeah, I think they did do that, right?
Look, Bond, that was what the Pierce Brosnan days. I mean, that tells you everything. It's like you said, it's not somebody didn't know that the Joker musical wouldn't work. That's what they're supposed to do for some reason, crash these franchises and break down these Hollywood icons and have them do these other things. That's part of their programming. That's why I call them handlers.
That would be another good skit. Some guy at the table like, why do we have to kill him? We just make somebody else James Bond. He's kind of the same age forever. Like, that's kind of the story. It's like we can just make him someone different. Like, why do we have to kill him? Also, he's supposed to be cool. So It's not cool to sit on the back of a moped.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He's not even driving.
How about this? How about it's a motorcycle and it shoots missiles? Like that way, it goes really. It's got like a rocket booster in the back. It's going to be super awesome. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. And then one guy's like, what do you mean? You know, they have like the guy Q, he gives them the gadgets. And obviously we've seen a lot of cool Bond cars, an awesome motorcycle. And they said, how about a Vespa? And he's sitting on the back and he's holding on to a woman of color.
I like it.
Non-binary. Well, maybe she's not a woman. Maybe she's non-binary. We don't want to assume that she's a woman. Maybe that'll be the mystery of the movie, like whether she is or she's not.
I mean, this is the old James Bond. I don't know if you can see this. Oops. Wrong one. It's I think it's this one. Yeah. Am I not sharing that though?
No, that's the music. I hear the music, but I'm picturing a cool James Bond.
Oh, cool. Okay. Let's see.
You know what's sad is I thought Casino Royale was a really good movie. I thought the first Daniel Craig movie was really good. I thought it was one of the best ones.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed how they changed the character on it. I mean, this is what he used to be like. Let's see.
I don't remember the second guy. Does anybody else not remember the second guy?
Which guy? This guy?
Yeah, who's that guy?
Yeah, he was only in one movie. George Lazenby, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I love this guy's movie. I grew up with this guy, so he was kind of my first Bond.
Yeah,
this one was
Roger Moore.
His movies were decent, and then I like where they took it here. But nowadays, he's riding in the back of the moped, so there's that.
Which is kind of ironic because they introduced him as kind of like more of a tough guy than the other ones,
right? And then they stripped him right down because again, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to build him up and then rip it down and then go on some whatever Democratic Party thing and tell you how everyone's the devil but them, that kind of thing. Or everyone that's the other thing, movies and TV, everyone's questionably gay. You can't have a relationship with anyone without testing the waters and stuff. It's like, it's so ridiculous how they have to push that agenda and everything. But then again, the fact that it's entertaining is just a byproduct. They were always there to push the agenda and be our handlers. That's what they're for. So that's that. And then, this movie couldn't be made nowadays, or these books, because there was only one Asian character in the entire franchise of Harry Potter, and her name was Ching Chong.
Is that true?
Yes. Look it up. Am I wrong?
Know what?
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm pretty sure.
That's
Cho Chang. I don't know
if that's real.
Well,
would. You know what? Like I said, I'm the last person to be politically correct, but I'll say they got an argument at least that's slightly.
Yeah, I do believe her name was.
That's slightly offensive.
Somebody can fact check me on that. We'll see. We'll move on. And then I love this picture. This was during the mass evacuations of the hurricane, and they got this one guy going back, and everyone speculated on the internet. Did he forget his phone charger? Like, they leave the stove on. Like, what's going on here? Of all the things, it's the only guy going that way. So there's that. And the hurricane, of course, I believe all these things are fake.
Oh yeah.
Pictures
I played with that.
Look at this. It covers the entire earth. Half the earth.
Actually, can I share a screen? I think I made something.
Oh,
for
I
that.
can't wait. Okay.
Let me see if I got that.
This.
Actually, just give me 1 second. I know I saved it on here, but I think I need to upload it to my.
Okay, go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show them this. Because there's people now saying that there's no such thing as weather modification and blah blah blah. Really? Well, then you go all the way back to the Walt Disney productions back in the 1959 educational films, where they even talked about how they have been modifying the weather, and we know they did it in different wars and stuff. They've admitted how they did it, and
it's ridiculous. Okay, I'm ready to share whenever you
bet
you let me.
All right, let me stop this. Get out of that screen. Where are we at here? Where are you? Here we go. Okay. I don't see your thing.
Okay, I can share screen. Let me see. It's okay. You see it?
Got it. That's a big hurricane.
What's funny is like if you see me pause it, there's actually a hurricane in the Gulf right there. You see it?
Yeah. I don't know if I can make that larger.
But yeah, you can see. You can see it though. Like so, like obviously this is the United States up here, and you can see like the hurricane down there.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
Okay, so now we're gonna watch it again with.
Yeah, it's insane. And the problem is like we can show people this and they just still can't see it. It's that whole thing. God says those that have eyes to see. They just
Well, some people. It's funny even some people's first day on the internet and they don't know sarcasm or anything. They're like, it's a fisheye lens. I was like, yeah, I know it is. That's why I'm making fun of it. Like, yeah, I know that it's not real. That's why that's the joke. It's like, yeah, that I don't think it's really that big. I know that it's not. And that's why I'm showing everyone how absurd it is that it's as big as the whole United States. And so some people say, you don't get perspective because it's like, it looks bigger because they're closer. And you're like, well, why does the curve look like that then? Right? The curve is like, they made the curve look like that because they want you to think there's a curve.
Right.
There's either curve or there's not. And there's a reason there's no stars in the background is because it's not real. Like none of that stuff is real. None of it's real.
No.
And even look how big the ship is. Like I said, we didn't even mention the side of the ship is like, the ship is as big as the hurricane. So like, yeah, it's as big as the United States as well.
They can't see it. They'll explain it all away every time. All right. Let's see. I got to fly through these. We got about 10 minutes here. What's left? I got rid of a bunch of them. We'll do another day. I just love this one. This guy said he's high as fuck. And then he wrote me too. And then he wrote, lol, shit, that's me. Not saying I've been there, but I can relate to this. Definitely. So that was pretty good. And then, this came out. He went from they hated each other because we're watching wrestling, and now they're best buddies and they're on stage together. And this has become a meme where he's jumping. But as I've shown before, a lot of the flat earth people do these same Masonic symbols and stuff. And so this is, Moloch. You see it when they do a touchdown. It's the same thing. And, he's wearing this belt buckle. He dresses as Baphomet. He just changed it, but his Twitter feed was the Baphomet costume
for a long time.
Yeah. So they tell it, and he even called himself a dark magician, dark MAGA. And of course, for those that have read up on it, MAGA is actually a top witch in whatever that occult stuff is. And so now he's the dark one. I think these are whatever whatever Satan's going to plan out to make it look like we're going through revelation, these guys are definitely part of it in my mind.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I do think that some people, like on our side, they are trying. It's almost like the Q level conspiracies with all this stuff. So they're trying to fake an assassination attempt on Trump, so then he'll get elected, but then he really hasn't moved up in the polls. And then, so do they want him to get elected, or do they not want him to get elected?
I keep saying that if they put in the dark horse, or you can't say that, whoever Kamala is, that would, I think, upset the country even more than if they put in the orange man again. I know.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like that, it's kind of almost like that. I'm open to all the conspiracies, but it's kind of like.
Well, what about this one? Did you see this?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think obviously some of those things are very clear. I mean, I don't trust Elon Musk again. Like I made a bunch of videos about him. Like he's the guy who's trying to stick chips in people's brains and stuff like that. Obviously, he's in all that, the fake space stuff. You know, like, I mean, just be honest. He's funnier than the other billionaires, so he's more likable than them. You know, he is. I use X more now because you can say more.
Too. There's at least new information there, where all the other ones are just
So I mean, like, so that being said, do I trust him? It's kind of the same way. Do I trust Trump? No, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not saying you have to choose, but I'm saying like that at some point. All right, what is the end game like with this stuff? You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like to me, it's like I always said, like, if they wanted Trump to win, they would just hold a fair election, right? They wouldn't need to do all the other stuff because it's like he's already got his fans. He's already got the people who hate him. None of this stuff has moved people who didn't like him to his side, right? So like, what is the point? Like, so it's almost like this level where people think that the puppeteers can really, like, I mean, how they're trying to be really creative when they could just do this if they wanted this certain outcome. And we know that that's typically what they do. And we know that, I would say, based on what I've learned since 2020, they're not that good at this. Like the things they've done recently, like it's really clumsy. You can spot it a mile away. You can poke holes in it. But the thing they've got on their side is, again, cognitive dissonance from the people. So you could even, like, you and I could point these things out and certain people wouldn't believe it because it does not fit in their worldview. You know, so they could do what they want to. They could get the results they want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like this much theater for what reason? Other than, I mean, like, literally, are they like?
Also, it keeps us fighting each other.
Well, I mean,
families are being split apart over politics.
I do think that could be the part of the thing, though. It's like that you have people on our side. I mean, I think. Let's just say, and like I said, I know people would probably accuse me for being a Trump fan just by saying this, but I was saying, like, ideally you have to choose which one. Like, you know, I know that some people are not going to vote and I might not vote, but if somebody said you have to choose, everybody's picking Trump. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if they want you to not like Trump, so then Kamala gets elected, wouldn't that be more likely what they would be trying to do? They're trying to throw shade at him in order for people to elect her. But is anyone going to be, oh, thank God Trump's not in there, because, you know, like Elon Musk did that weird jump. And obviously he was trying to act like Moloch. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't that sound more insane than it's like, and then so Kamala gets in there and she says, oh yeah, by the way, we're making this the United States of China. And, you know, we've sold everything. And obviously every illegal immigrant gets twice as much as they got yesterday. And then everyone's like, well, we dodged a bullet with that Trump thing, you know? So, you know what I'm saying? Like at some point, like, are we really trying to cut off our nose to spite our face? I'm just saying, like, let's put that out there for 1 second. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like you say, I mean, they both work for the same team. And as I look back through my life, I've seen, you know, different presidents, Democrat, Republican, didn't matter who was in there. The main agenda just keeps rolling along. I mean, whichever side you're for, it doesn't matter to me at this point. You want to vote in Trump, go for it. You want to vote in the other gal, vote in her. I don't care, because it's going to continue.
I kind of care if somebody, I mean, I kind of care if somebody, if somebody's going to vote for her.
Yeah, but once your vote is cast, and if people want to vote, go ahead. I have no problem. I think at a local level, it still does something. But once I cast my vote, and then it goes off into, it's handled and everyone sees it. Then it goes into a computer system. At that level, we don't know when it gets on to, whatever headline news or what I call Fox. At that level, it's just numbers in a computer, and we really have no idea. And so they can kick it however they want it at that point.
Yeah, I do see the one positive of like Biden or Kamala in the White House instead of Trump is that we'll all know that the government is not our friend.
Yeah.
And if Trump's in there, some people say, oh, you got to give him a chance, and like said, now we're like, we know whatever they're doing is not good. But then a lot of people who voted for whatever, if your guy gets in there, people will say, don't worry, he's going to take care of it.
Well,
and you're like,
and
no,
I understand too. God can use anyone. We had good kings and bad kings throughout the Bible. It's biblically written that we have to have a government. We asked for it and we got it. He says we'll have it to the rest of the end of time. So we're stuck with a government. Would it be nice if we could have one that actually cares about the people? Yes, but that's not who's in charge. And so when I look at the policies of the left or whatever, totally against everything I believe, obviously, as a Christian. But then, like you say, to me, Trump is such a snake oil salesman. He had me going too, but he spent more money than all the other presidents before him, and he was the father of the shot, and he was the guy
warp speed.
And I could go on, and the red flag laws, and you can't talk about Israel. All those things came out of him. And
he's touching the wall. He's touching the wall now, and all this stuff.
And they're singing to Vance, some rabbi dude that everyone thinks is the new.
I did see Vance at some kind of thing where they were doing some kind. That was.
Yeah, it's getting.
That was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen.
But there's so many people that are God-fearing people that think he's on our side, and yet he's announced he's not a Christian. And at the Republican National Convention, they had that woman praising and singing to some other god. I forget the name.
That was bizarre.
And so people just they put on their blinders, like, oh, I like Trump. I'll forget that he flew on Epstein's plane. He only needed to go to another location. He didn't stop over at the island, or it's like all the pictures of him with Puff Daddy and all the ones of him and Hillary, and you know what I mean? It's like the same cognitive dissonance just blocks all that out.
What about Carl Winslow?
What about Carl Winslow? Have you done a video on this? What are you?
No. I heard that the other day, and I know it's not brand new news, but I was like, but him and Puff Daddy, I was just like, I said that's pretty good evidence that it's all of them. when it's Carl Winslow too, it's like it's all of them. It's like, oh my god, unbelievable. Like it's just.
Well, look, I'd love to continue this. I mean, our conversations, I just have a blast with, but I do have this prior engagement I have to get to. My wife texted me, so I really have to wrap it up. Thanks for jumping on here, and dude, let's do this again here, your show, wherever you want.
Yeah, sure, man. Sure, man.
And if you have any more roundtable discussions in short season, I'd jump right in there if you ever need another voice on panels.
Yeah, we need to do it. We need to do a big chat. That'd be kind of fun,
right? Because there's enough of us now, I think, that are discussing these things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's growing.
Yeah. So again, thank you very much. And if you guys haven't subscribed, check out his channel. It's in the descriptions. And everyone that's here, thank you. And this show is parlaying. If you wait about another, I think it's 15 minutes. I did a show on Joe's channel, JT's channel. I did a show, and I have never shown it here, so I'll premiere that. So if you're not done listening to us tonight, you can watch that for another. I think it was like 3 hours we did that night. So
yeah, that was a long one.
So is there anything else you want to say or promote while you're here?
Yeah, after you guys watched that one, I did a video that was too hot for YouTube. It was about weather modification. It's over on my Rumble channel. I'm proud. I love YouTube, and I'm really blessed by God that the channel's growing. But yeah, I think that having a backup place like Rumble's a good thing, because we're going to be talking about things that we Said I'm not going to change. Well, I mean, that's what I said. I don't want to risk my channel. So like, I'm going to talk about those things still though. And those things are available on Rumble, and it's available on Spotify and also Apple Podcasts. So yeah, I tied some things together that you might not have seen. So you guys should check it out.
Excellent. All right. So there we go. Thank you all for being here. I guess I always like to end with saying, dear Lord, watch over us and guide us through these times. Fill our hearts with joy and give us the strength, the endurance to get through these times, and the patience to have others catch up, I guess, in a way, to where we're at, and ask us and ask God. If you're not sure about any of the things we've talked about, please seek that relationship with him yourself. Do it privately. Ask God to show himself, and he will. That's his promise. And so please, God, watch over us, protect our families from evil, and help us and heal us through these times. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So with that, you get this. Where is this one?
Class is dismissed.
All right. And with that, thank you all for being here. I'm going to play the outro. You can watch that and hang out. And like I said, I think about 10 after 6, the next one rolls, and you can all hang out in another chat room for the premiere. So once again, thank you for any donations and for just being here and the support. And thank you, JT, for coming on. And
appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was fun.
All right. Okay. Love you all. Good night.
God bless.
I'm the satellite.
500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat.
Satellite transfer complete.
Okay, I'm still here to tell everyone, go to the premiere. It'll be starting. The link is in the description, and it's been put in the chat a bunch of times. So thank you again. God bless, and we'll see you over there.